Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having a great day. Let's take another look here at Celestia. This is a coin that I get a lot of requests on, not just from my community because I have a TA request section here. I think it was Kaner. Thank you so much for the request. There's a few other older members that have been asking for me to cover this here lately because it seems like a good opportunity. And I would say from a bird's eye view, this absolutely does look like a pretty solid situation, especially with this bullish retest here. You could even argue this is a broadening wedge type of pattern, and these generally break to the upside, or also could be a flag pattern too, depending on how you draw it out. Either way, the simple way to understand it is that you never take trades based on patterns alone, but that's a good starting point. Okay, and again, I typically like to try to convince myself not to take a trade. So when we look at this here today, we're going to make sure that we understand best practice when we go into a trade, and we're not just arbitrarily jumping into a long because we got a little bit of FOMO because Bitcoin's at 102 and we missed the 98K entry, right? That does nothing for you. So let's go ahead and look at the liquidation levels first and kind of work our way down. Oh, and quick congrats to our community members here. We saw some nice solid profits here from our SUI long over the weekend, 60% roughly from 2 days. And then I want to make sure to mention this here too, because Bitcoin has a lot of volume flowing into it right now. We had an unusual buying activity alert in our premium group at about $1.3 billion in under 15 minutes, roughly about 5 or 6 hours ago. So ever since then, altcoins have been like, should I move? Should I not? A lot of them are just testing this resistance range, and it's important to recognize that. So let's look at the back end data first, and just note, last 7 days of liquidation, we can see there's more to the upside than the downside, both on smaller and larger timeframes. Okay, so we got maybe about $2 billion in liquidation between 580 and 650. That's a ballpark, basically. I'm spitballing there, but you can see these red areas here are just heavy concentrations of liquidation. We look here at the the amount of liquidation delta. I love to see this. As the liquidation delta tapers off, the more likely you are to find breakouts to the upside. Reason why is because we're not overextended. Okay, we don't have everyone and their dog taking a long position right now. We can start to see more and more shorts enter. But what the shorts don't know is that there's a ton of liquidation at this 580 mark, and they're probably going to get hit pretty hard soon. Okay, and now again, I know it's easy to want to short when you have an overextension to the downside. Or the upside rather, but shorting an overextension is probably one of the most foolhardy things you can do. Let's take a quick look here at open interest. Recognize there's a lot of people heavy at 540 and roughly 570 respectively. Okay, so we got some late longs essentially trying to take that breakout trade. And we also got most people adding to their position as the price comes down in this range. No matter how you look at it, as a bullish rectangle type of pattern, a lot of positive stuff you can extract from this pattern here, and letting us know that we're generally more likely to see further upside. We do have a fair value gap down below, so don't be blind to that. We could very well see a 6-7% correction if Bitcoin comes back down to 100,000. But if we look at the daily time frame here, we want to recognize a few things. In fact, let's start with the weekly first and just go ahead and work our way. We can see here that we are below some moving averages, so it's important to understand this coin is not like super bullish. Okay, it's trying to break bullish is basically what I get from it just looking at the macro. And when we look at here, we can also see we're not fully over 50 on the RSI either, so it's going to take a lot more volume to get through that resistance range, but we do have good money flow, right? So when the money flow is remaining high, it increases sustainability. So this range of just say low $4 upwards of 5 or 6, we're seeing a pretty decent amount of buying activity here, and the likelihood of going much lower is pretty low. I would dare say that the bottom for Celestia is in. Okay, daily time frame though is where things get a little different. We haven't broken bullish by any stretch. We're still under the 50-day SMA, but the 20-day SMA is right there below the price action, kind of letting us know that we've broken this short-term trend, right? A lot of times I like to draw out trend lines based on these kind of factors, okay? So just note that it's not an exact science, but being over the 20-day SMA generally is very favorable. But we're still under the 200, the 20, and the 100, so it's not like we're crazy bullish here, right? But we are consistently testing 50 on the RSI here. Stochastics trying to break down. MACD still converging. These are more positive than negative, but it's not an exact situation here. It's not like this is a oh my gosh, I have to take a trade right now because this coin is going to explode. But the longer we spend in this range, we spent roughly 2 to 3 days here creating doji candles. It tells us there's a lot of indecision and more likelihood of breaking up than down now that we're above that key level resistance from local highs based on last week. Okay, so those are all very favorable signs. For the most part, not like tremendous identifications of breakout, but pretty good ones if you ask me. We're over all moving averages here minus the 200 on the 4-hour time frame. And if you know anything about my analysis, the 50 and the 20 are the two important ones there, and we are above that. We're also over 50 on the RSI. Stochastic is swinging up for roughly the second time, carries more weight than the first, and MACD is diverging. So again, we got kind of a mixed bag here of imperfection. But if you ask me, the way that we continuously retesting this range here, in light of Bitcoin, kind of going sideways for the moment and or, that recent pump, we're looking pretty solid here. We just got to recognize that there is still definitely potential for the price to pull back to these local highs, or more importantly, this low, 515 mark as a potential reality before it takes off again. Okay. So it could be one of these things here where it just kind of goes whoopsie, or it just kind of continues to work itself out and takes off and doesn't look back. Either way you look at it, the statistical probability of further upside is greater than downside. So if I were to take a trade of this coin, I would keep it a low leverage play, like lower than even my normal 5x leverage. I'd probably do 2.5%, or 2.5x rather. And then of course I'd have some loftier targets, but my stop loss would be probably below this local point of control at like 490, maybe even 440. I don't know. Again, low leverage, you get more flexibility there, and you can hold your trades for longer, and it's generally favorable. So consider that. Either way you look at it, Ichimoku Cloud is confirming we're above the cloud. While it's not perfect, we're still maintaining this range. We can also recognize too that the lagging span is starting to peak above a little bit, and the conversion line and the baseline are kind of intersecting. So this doesn't, again, give me a super big vote of confidence. All the more reason if I were to take a trade or recommend a trade, that you use proper risk tolerance and just limit your risk altogether by not using high leverage and or small position size, whichever works best for you. But I think from a macro perspective, how strong this coin can be once it breaks free from this range is probably not going to look back. So there's a strong chance, a distinct probability that this may be the tentative bottom. But if it does pull back again, I would say potential consideration for a secondary or tertiary target at about the 520 mark, that lower fair value gap, roughly that local high there. I'll post a playout chart on our Twitter, Telegram, and Discord here shortly to kind of give you some perspective so you understand more specifically what my thoughts are and where this may go. But overall, it's doing pretty well. Okay. So again, this is not one of those like clean cut, like, oh, this coin is going to explode, but it's certainly looking more likely than not. Has a lot of the makings of another push to the upside versus a strong pullback. I think we're more likely to see a stronger increase than a decrease. Okay. Last but not least, too, if you've been kind of new to the channel, Bitunix is offering a nice little promo this month. They do every month. This month there's a Rolex and a MacBook Pro available. No KYC or VPN required. Again, if you got high volume or you have a larger portfolio size, this is going to be easy to attain. Try not to let this incentivize you, but the key takeaway here is that Bitunix is a phenomenal exchange. No KYC or VPN required for them. And again, I'll post a playout chart here shortly on our Twitter, Telegram, and Discord. Congrats again to our community members last month for some healthy profit, good 83% success rate on our trades. And obviously the profit is subjective to what kind of targets you're achieving, but for the most part, it's still always going to be a green month versus a red month based on that statistical probability. Because I take lower risk trades, albeit less trades in general, but higher success rate that in turn helps you grow your portfolio. So congrats. Thanks again for all the awesome feedback. You know who you are. Thanks so much again for being just an amazing part of my life. We'll look forward to seeing you on the next video. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.